Hello YouTube land, this is Michael. It's my first video that I actually show me and my voice. I wanted to do this video in response to my friend Kindra Ravenmoon's video on beginners meditation and some of the common mistakes that beginners make and struggle with in meditation, and often what prevents us in general, not only beginners, but all of us, from developing and continuing a meditation practice. This is something that I've struggled with myself, much to the chagrin of my own teachers, but I have found some ways that help a great deal in developing and maintaining that practice. So one of the first things I think is really important is to decide what we really mean by meditation, because I think a lot of people have different interpretations or different meanings when they say or think of meditation. Some people think of it as visualization, some people think of it as a trance-like state, other people think of it as breathing exercises, and others think of it as clearing the mind or emptying the mind, and many other different combinations. And of course in some ways it's all of those things, but it's not necessarily any one of those things. None of them are the correct definition of meditation. I also think that we often, I want to bring this in some way to understanding what meditation is through the elements. So depending on which systems you follow, there are 4 or 5 basic elements. Earth, water, fire, air are the generally agreed upon elements. And then there's the 5th element, which is sometimes called spirit, sometimes called ether or space. I come from a very yogic background, Ayurveda background. In Ayurveda, there are 5 elements. The 5th element is akasha, or space, and this is not to be confused, in fact, with spirit. Spirit, or consciousness, as it would be described in Ayurveda, is outside of all 5 elements. It's the either the ruling force or the underlying force that governs all 5 elements. And so akasha is not so much that consciousness or spirit, it's the space, it's the ground in which everything happens. It's the physical manifestation of space for things to occur. It's not filled with anything, there's no other element filling that space, but it is there nonetheless. So, for instance, if you have a house, space is there. You tear down the house, space is still there. You suck all the air out of that space, space is still there. But it's not necessarily any more or less spiritual than when the house was there, or when the air was there filling that space, or when it was just space. It's just one of the basic properties. So the reason I mention that is I think, and in Ayurveda, the way that the elements form, it's seen that the elements first start as a concept of Shiva or of consciousness, way up, beyond the ether, beyond space, as this abstract concept. And then from consciousness, then space is created. From space, it's filled first with air or gas, the gaseous principle. That gas, as it condenses, combusts and creates fire, or the burning quality, the transformative quality. And then from that combustion, that transformation turns air into liquid, into liquidity, the state of liquid or water, which we usually reduce it down to water, but it's not just water as in H2O, it's water as in anything that kind of moves and flows and is fluid. And then from that fluidity, that further condenses down into earth or solidity. And I think that we, in spiritual circles, we often think of ourselves as the earthly manifestation of spirit, that we've somehow come down from spirit or from ether to a physical manifestation, and that at the physical level we're somehow less spiritual because we are of the earth. And I think this is one of the biggest misconceptions in spirituality, because again, like the house that was there or the house that was not there, neither is more spiritual or less spiritual. The spirituality or consciousness is present anyway, as is the space that manifests from consciousness. So, but because we often think of our physical existence as being lower than spirit, a lot of us were trying through meditation to achieve a movement back up through the elements, from earth to water to fire to air to space, and then whether you see space as spirit or you see spirit as somehow outside of that, then carrying on to spirit. And I don't see that that way so much at all. I, in fact, see that meditation is a process of sitting in the earthiness, in the physical manifestation, and encompassing that, owning that, and in fact collecting in the earth, in the groundedness of our existence, collecting all of the other elements. One way I can think of this and how it connects to what I think some of you are going to be coming around this channel for, because this channel is mostly going to be about tarot, and especially now my new tarot deck that I've just designed and launched. It relates to tarot in the sense that tarot works mainly with the four elements: air, fire, water, earth. Air is swords, fire is wands. Sometimes that's switched up, depends on the tradition. But for me, air is swords, fire is wands or batons or staves, water is cups, and earth is pentacles. And so often in the tarot world, we think of pentacles and the earthly element as only being physical possessions, the physical body, money, earthly manifestation. And a lot of times we think of that earthiness as being somehow unspiritual, that having money or having physical security or having earthly stability, having a home, a roof over your head, is owning a body that houses consciousness. We somehow think that that's unspiritual, that we have to transcend that. And so again, it's that same kind of idea that we go earth up to water, and we graduate from earth to water to fire to air to ether. And that is one way to look at meditation, but I often find as a yoga teacher and someone who's exposed a lot to different forms of meditation, both Eastern and Western, that approach to meditation actually destabilizes people. Not in the sense that they go crazy or anything like that. It happens, but not so commonly. But what it does is it disembodies people, and it actually separates their consciousness from themselves. They are otherizing themselves, which to me is the complete opposite of meditation. What meditation really should do is take you out of the ether, out of the air, out of mind stuff, and bring you down into being, into the earth, into the physical manifestation, which in the physical manifestation everything is there, because it's the most, it has come down from all the other elements. It is in a sense, the most complete, the most spiritual of the elements, because it includes everything. Um, Another way that I think about this in the tarot with relation to the elements is that air or swords is related to the nervous system, the mind, communication, that's fairly common association, and thinking processes. So moving from being, from earth toward air, in a way, is actually not so much what we want to do in meditation. We're moving toward thinking. Not that thinking is bad, I'll talk about that in a minute, but that it's a little bit counterintuitive, and often the struggle that we have in meditation is, oh, I think too much. Oh, I can't meditate, I think too much. Or I can't meditate, I can't sit still. Or different excuses like that. And I know them. I've used them. I know them all. I get bored. All of them. I know it. At least the common basic ones for beginners. There are struggles later on that happen to more advanced meditators, and we all struggle with it. Advanced meditator, intermediate meditator, beginner meditator, we all struggle with keeping with our practice and staying with it. So back to earthiness in tarot. So air is thoughts, is mind stuff, thinking process. Fire is action. It's the doing process. So I think of air, thinking, fire, doing, water, feeling. I'll talk about that in a second. And then earth then is being. And meditation is a practice of being. It's not a practice of thinking. We learn that, or we assume that, by the idea that the mind is supposed to be empty. It's not really, but we get that misconception that the mind is supposed to be empty. It's not so much that it should be empty, but that the thinking process slows down as you move down through the elements, from thinking into doing, from doing into feeling. Feeling is very important, and then from feeling into being. Feeling is the doorway, in a way, between thinking and being. And so why do we think so much? Part of it is the mind's job is to think. That's its function. And so for you to sit down, this is the struggle that we often have, is to sit down and say, okay, mind, stop thinking. We're actually telling the mind, you know what? You're unemployed. You're fired. And the mind, nobody likes to hear they're fired unless they really hate their job. But the mind likes thinking. It likes its job. Its livelihood is built on thinking. It doesn't want to be unemployed. It doesn't want to be out of a job. And so as soon as you tell the mind, stop thinking, you're fired. The mind says, but wait, I'm doing such a good job here. I really want to think. I'll show you. I can think really hard. I can think of all these really clever things. And then you get stuck in an abundance of thought, more so than even before you sat down and said, hey, mind, go take a break. You're unemployed. So that's one of the biggest obstacles, is saying, hey, mind, I don't want you to do your job. It rebels. The other thing that the mind does, and the reason the mind thinks so much, is that the mind is the body's tool to prevent you from being in the body, being present with your body, with your being, with the sensations. And that's often because sensation is not always pleasant. And even when it is, we don't always want to feel those things for various reasons. We don't feel we deserve it. We've been told we don't deserve it. We've been told that pleasurable sensations are bad things, or that the body is bad, that feeling is bad, all of those kind of things. Or we just, or sometimes the sensations actually are bad, that we have pain in the body and we have traumas, and those aren't necessarily the big traumas we think of from very, very big events that people suffer from, things like PTSD and stuff, but smaller traumas. Stubbing your toe on the doorframe is a trauma, and it has an effect through not just in your foot, but through your entire body, firstly to the hip and buttock and lower back, and then it can go up into the shoulder and the neck and the eye or wherever else, different places. And our response to pain, body's smart. Body doesn't want to feel pain. So our response to pain is to shut off consciousness from those places in the body that feel pain. So the mind is then not able to penetrate those places. And the mind builds in a failsafe that says, as soon as I have sensation in this place, because sensation circumvents thought, I know, I'll just think. No problem. That distracts the mind, it distracts consciousness from feeling what's actually going on. And it takes you out of presence. It moves you up out of earth into air, into ether. And so if the body feels so bad, why would we want to be in it? Why, like, if there's pain, why would I want to experience that? And often people go to meditation because they have physical pain or emotional pain. They're the same thing, really, actually. They're two sides of the same coin, I should say. And so people often go to meditation or yoga or different other modalities that include some meditative aspect because they think that they can jump out of their pain. If I just learn how to meditate, if I just learn how to do yoga, I can jump out of my pain rather than have to experience it. And unfortunately, the reality is, for you to be present, for you to be a being, a consciousness that is being, not doing, not thinking, not feeling, but a consciousness that is being, you must go through feeling the body's hurts, pains, dullness, joy, pleasure, all of it. And so feeling is that door between thought processes and actions, which I'll probably get to too. The feeling is that door between thought and being. And it's a door in both directions. Because, like I say, if whatever sensations are there, whatever feeling is there, whatever you don't want to feel, the mind kicks in and kicks you out of those sensations, out of feeling. And sometimes that can actually be very useful. Sometimes the body is such an uncomfortable place to be. You actually don't want to be in it, and there are some techniques for that that I might go into later on. They're a bit more complicated. But it's also the door the other way, that if you notice, whenever you bring attention to the sensations of your body, even the sensations of a certain part of your body, thinking at least slows down. If you tell the mind, don't think, it won't work. It will keep thinking. It'll go on overplay. Not autoplay, overplay. But if you can stay with sensation, sensation brings you into being. And that beingness, that state of being, in that state of being, there's timelessness. It's pure consciousness. Sometimes you only experience it for a second, but even that second seems timeless, because you're in being, you're present. And ideally, this is really what we're striving for all the time. This is why we meditate, is we're practicing presence, so that you can take that presence that beingness from your meditation practice and extend it outward into the rest of your activities, the rest of your daily life. And some of us are much more successful at that than others. But we've all had some experience of presence, of being. And this is some of the techniques that Kendra was talking about in meditation aids, meditation tools. And some of them are more effective for creating that beingness, that presence, than others. But things like repetitive tasks. Repetitive tasks, though, that require a certain amount of attention are better than repetitive tasks that you can do mindlessly. So the more you repeat certain tasks, certain patterns, the more mindless they can become. And you may have a feeling, because it's so mindless, that you have that experience of lack of thought or timelessness in a way. But it's really more a movement of consciousness out of your body, out of action, out of what you're doing at the present, rather than a movement into that. So repetitive tasks like gardening or painting, doing the dishes sometimes, repetitive tasks that require a certain degree of attention. When you're doing dishes, you have to pay attention a little bit to, well, not dropping the plate and breaking it, or not reaching into the sink where there's a sharp knife. So there's a certain amount of attention you have to maintain, and yet it's a very repetitive, menial task. It's one of those earthy tasks, those so-called mundane activities that can actually bring you into presence. Painting. Paint your house. You know, if you have the time and the energy and the paint your house. It's another task that requires both repetition and attention. Gardening, same thing. Animals are great for this. You know, petting your cat. The cat's right beside me here, having a little nap. Petting your cat, it's repetitive, but there's a certain amount of consciousness, a certain amount of attention that you need to maintain in order to have that. Whereas there are certain other tasks that just become automatic, that you don't need to be present for. And it's not so much that it's the task, it's what's your mindset when you're doing the task. So, I don't drive, but driving is one of those tasks that can very easily, especially if you're driving on the highway, or if you're driving a regular route that you normally drive to work, or something like that, where it's really easy actually to stop paying attention. Stop paying attention to the lights, stop paying attention to the houses you pass on the way, or the signs, or all of that kind of stuff, and to just basically check out. And you don't really become more present in the task of driving unless something wrong happens, and unless something bad happens, like someone darts out in front of you, or the car in front of you suddenly breaks, or whatever those unexpected things are. And those moments, they can be a little bit jarring, but they actually serve as reminders. Oh, I'm not paying attention. Now I am. I'm awake now. I'm paying attention. But prior to that, you probably weren't. If you didn't see the pedestrian coming up the road near the corner out of your peripheral vision, you may have been spacing out. You may not be present. I'll leave that alone for now. I could go on and on, but I'm basically saying the same thing again. Another meditation aid tool that is often used is music. I'm not a big fan of this one, I have to say. again, I find that people tend to actually use music to space out, to take them away from their bodies, away from their sensations, away from presence, from being present, and they use music as a way to escape all of that. Not that that doesn't have its value, it certainly does, and I have my own tools for escape as well. But it's not meditation. It's something else. It's escapism. It can be a form of discharge, and those are fine. Those are good things, but it's not meditation. If the music that you use for meditation creates a kind of attention, so if it's music that you love and you go into the music and you notice every note or as many notes as possible and you follow the music, you are going along with the music instead of letting the music just take you away. That's a little bit different. Also, if you're using music and dancing, for instance, and you're using music to actually bring sensation into your body, not necessarily for dancing, you can sit still and use music to, the vibrations of music, to bring sensation to various parts of your body. That's great, that's fine, that's bringing presence to the physical realm. Also in that is chanting. Now, even though I'm not a very big fan of exterior music, chanting and interior music, or self-created music, can be a wonderful form of meditation, can be a wonderful meditation tool. Sorry about that. I was running out of storage on my iPad, so I needed to delete a couple of things. So hopefully I won't be interrupted again by the technology. So chanting is a great way of bringing interior awareness, because you're active in creating the music. Same thing with drumming or playing an instrument, various types of things like that. Another great meditation tool is using nature. So, and even really exterior sounds of all kinds, exterior sensation, exterior sensory input of all kinds. Of course, nature is more generally pleasing, so the mind and the body will tend to be more receptive if you can manage to sit out in a park, in a forest if you have access to one, near a beach if you have access to one. Sitting out in the rain or walking through the rain can be a great way, or even sitting indoors near a window when it's raining, watching the sunrise, watching the sunset. All of those kind of things, they're generally more pleasing to the mind, and so the mind is more willing to suspend itself for those moments. You know, breathtaking sunset or sunrise, thinking stops. It's not that was your goal. It's not like you've gone to go, okay, I'm going to go and see the sunrise so that I can stop my mind. That's not it at all. It's, wow, that is so beautiful that all of my mental processes have just parted so that I can be present and witness this event. That, although it happens every day, I may not see it every day. And also, although it happens every day, there's only a short window that a sunrise is really breathtaking. You know, ancient peoples observed and tracked the movement of the sun and the stars and the moon all day, every day. And a lot of historians kind of take that as, oh, they were sun worshippers or whatever. And they could be, but they could very well also have just been using the sun or other natural cycles as a way to remind themselves to be present, of reminding themselves to be where they are. There's the name of the guru is gone off the top of my head, but there's a fantastic book, and the title of the book is one of the best meditation instructions there is. It's called Be Here Now. Very simple instruction, very accurate. It's telling you what to do, where to do it, and when. So, what to do? Be. Where to do it? Here. Wherever you are, here you are, right? I know it's cliche, I know it's really cheesy, but it's true. That's why it's a cliche, because it's so true. So, be, here, and when? Now. And now is an eternal state. It's not, I really stay as far away as I can from the present moment idea. I find that even though I understand what they mean by it, what they're trying to get at, the idea of the present moment has within it this idea that it's something you're chasing. It's one minuscule moment in time that if I could just get that, if I could just be in the present moment, everything would be great. No. The present moment doesn't exist. Presence across all moments, the now, always exists. It's always there. It's always here. All you have to do is enter that. Enter the now through presence, through the body, through physical sensation. So how do we do that? Besides some of the things that I mentioned, the very classical way is you sit. You sit, you observe the body sensations. One of the ways to do that is to observe the breath. And it's a challenge. It's a challenge to just sit and observe. Observation, again, is turning the mind in a different way. So it's not unemploying the mind. It's not telling the mind, don't think of anything. It's telling the mind, instead of doing your job in the way that you normally do, or instead of doing the job that you always do, I have a new job for you. Instead of thinking of solutions for everything all the time, like I ask you to do all the time, and you do a wonderful job of it, and it's great. Instead of that, you've done such a good job of thinking of solutions for me. As a reward, I'm going to give you this opportunity to do a different job. And we all kind of like doing something that's a little bit different from the ordinary. So that different job is now just to watch, just to observe. And like any new job, it's difficult at first. The skill isn't there. And through practice, you develop the skill of observation. Sorry, I was having two trains of thought diverge and nothing happened. Lack of presence. Or full presence, one of the two. I think it was lack of presence. So by giving the mind something else to do, observation, it cuts the thinking process. But because the habit of the mind is to think, it's always going to go back to what's familiar. It's always going to go back to what is its habit. And that's not a problem. It's not bad. It's not, oh, I failed at meditating. It just means, oh, that habit that my mind has, that I usually value, but for whatever reason for meditation I somehow don't value it anymore, has started again. So you just remind yourself, I'm training a new skill for this mind to have, and that is observation. So you can be observant of many different things. in any room, in any situation, even once you turn off your phone and your TV and your computer and feed your cat and put it to bed and put your kids to bed and tell your partner not to bother you and all of those things, there's still going to be distraction. There will be sounds outside. There will be sounds inside. There will be an insect in the room that you can't ignore. The temperature won't be quite right. Your clothes will be too tight. Whatever. There's a thousand. You're thirsty or hungry, or you just ate. I'm too full. I can't sit and meditate. I'm just too full to meditate. Whatever it is, there's always going to be a distraction. Use those distractions as your tool for observation. So instead of thinking, how can I get rid of that beeping? I don't know if you guys can hear it, but there's a beeping outside my window. Instead of thinking, how can I get rid of that beeping? Or going, what's wrong with those people beeping outside? Don't they know I'm doing a YouTube video about meditation? No, I take that and I use that sound as an anchor into presence, into what's going on right now. What's happening, the reality of right now, even though I may prefer not to have that beeping outside my window, the reality of right now is that that beeping is happening. And there could be a very good reason for it. Maybe the street really needs to be fixed. Now, maybe there's something dangerous in the street right now that they need to fix. That's a good thing. Sounds annoying, but and now it's gone. And but they're not trying to harm me by beeping outside. It's irrelevant. So I use it as an anchor. And then when that anchor ends, not only do I notice that the sound is terminated, at least for now, but I also notice how does that affect my body? There's always annoying sounds are in some ways a better meditation tool than pleasing sounds. When those sounds end, there's always an opening inside the body. There's always a release of tension inside the body, largely in the ear, because the tiny muscles in the ears are trying to close to shut out that unpleasant sound. And as much as you can try to be receptive to that sound, as soon as it ends, that's your test. You get to go, that opened from the lack of sound. I was holding tension there. And you can even follow that tension downward through the body, and it affects other tensions in the body. So this is how noise pollution affects us, and things like that. So where I'm going, I'm just kind of rambling. Hopefully I'm making some sense to some of you. The breath is a great anchor too. It's the most common, in Buddhist meditation, it's really the common anchor, which is just watching the breath. That in itself is a huge challenge because we breathe in and out all day, every day, night and day, largely unconsciously. Again, we don't really notice the breath until something goes wrong with it, or unless we try to breathe. But it's always happening, and thankfully it is, otherwise we'd all be dead. Or we'd be spending all our time thinking about, and we wouldn't be able to think about anything else or do anything else in our day-to-day lives. But we are also able to consciously affect the breath. So I can hold my breath, override the natural system. That's a kind of presence, but usually in meditation we're not actually trying to directly affect the breath. We're just using the breath as a thread, as an anchor to observe. And there's many sensations that happen with the breath. There's the sensations of the breath at the nostrils. As the breath comes in, usually it feels cooler. As it exits the nostrils, it usually feels warmer. You usually feel one nostril more than the other. As the breath comes in, it creates a variety of sensations through the sinuses, through the throat, usually a drying sensation on inhalation, a more moistening sensation on exhalation, and all of the body's tissues, ideally, respond to the breath. So there's just in that movement of accommodating the inwardly coming breath, there's a whole variety of sensations that you can use to anchor yourself in yourself. It's because of those sensations, in fact, that we have a lot of difficulties breathing naturally. Because when we have pain in the body, sensations in the body that we don't want to experience, breath touches those sensations. So let's say I have a pain in my shoulder. If I breathe too deeply, I aggravate that pain. I don't want to feel that pain. It's ugh. And so the body actually learns both how not to expand the breath fully, how to not take a full breath in and then subsequently out. And it also learns how to not move that region, the shoulder region, as much as I breathe in, but maybe the breath will still go into other places that maybe don't have that trauma, that experience. And it becomes a habit, so that even once the pain in my shoulder goes away, which hopefully it does, doesn't always, but even once that pain in the shoulder goes away, the breath pattern remains. The sensation there is cut off. Mind, consciousness, is cut off from the physical. Mind is not being in this shoulder, or your foot, or wherever it is. So use physical sensation, use the breath. When you catch your mind wandering, no problem. Just remind yourself, this is my mind's job, and my body is taking advantage of the mind's capacity to distract me from sensation. I've probably actually touched on something that is uncomfortable, something that maybe requires a bit of attention. So no problem. You just go backwards. You go back to that, observing the breath in, observing the breath out, trying not to directly change the breath like I just did in that small demonstration. But just observe the sensations, and where the sensations are lacking, or when the sensations are excessive, those are the places to go. Now, of course, if they're too intense for you, if there's a reason that your mind should be kicking you out, there's trauma there, there's deeper issues than just, oh, my shoulder hurts, then don't work with that part of the body. Instead, work with parts of the body that have either no sensation or pleasurable sensation, or like neutral sensation, I should say. So things to observe, places for that are often around the tip of the nose or in the nostrils, maybe the sensations along the ears, sometimes the sensations at the tips of the fingers or soles of the feet. Or pick another part of the body that you can access consciously and use it as an anchor. Just keep, every time the mind wanders, come back to that part of the body that you've anchored yourself in and say, not right now. We'll think about that later. Come back to, yes, right thigh feels heavy. Breathing in, breathing out, right thigh feels heavy. Breathing in, right thigh feels lighter. Breathing out, right thigh feels heavier. Breathing in, right thigh feels thicker. Breathing out, right thigh feels narrower. Breathing in, right thigh feels warmer. Breathing out, right thigh feels cooler. Or all the various different sensations. You don't have to label them necessarily, but in the beginning, that labeling is a way of the mind to anchor and still feel like, oh, I'm still doing something, I'm still doing thinking, I'm still doing my job, I'm just doing it in a different way. And then over time, that lack of thought, lack of mental processes comes into play. And this leads me to the last thing I want to talk about for today about this, the idea of nothing. Think of nothing. All the not all the teachers, but a lot of teachers and a lot of texts say, think of nothing. Empty the mind, think of nothing. I think that that concept is a poor translation from the Buddhist ideals. Buddhism does talk about nothingness and meditation on nothingness, meditation on the void. But it's not so much that you're trying to make the mind empty, or trying not to think, or trying to make the mind nothingness. You're actually meditating on a very deep concept that is the concept of nothingness. What is that? So I mentioned tarot. I was going to show you a few cards, but I'm going to show you one that is an additional card, non-traditional card that I added to my deck, which people can take out or not, and choose to use however they like. And so meditation on nothing, and how nothing actually is everything. They're the same thing. They seem like opposites, but when you get to the level of nothingness, everythingness, and that means really everything in our known universe, everything outside of our known universe, everything that's unknown, that's everything. And in everything, that's nothing. Nothing is, it's so complete that it's nothing. And nothingness is so complete that it's everything. There we go, sort of. I'll refocus for a moment. There we go. The void. And so a lot of Buddhist teachings talk about meditating on the void, meditating on nothingness. It's a concept to think about. It's a riddle. It's like that Zen koan of, if a tree falls in the woods and nobody's there to hear it, does it make a sound? And we joke about that, but it's a reminder that, well, no, there's no sound without consciousness. There's no tree falling without consciousness either. That doesn't necessarily mean it's your consciousness. If you're not there to see or hear the tree falling in the wood, does the tree exist? Well, for you, no, it doesn't. It's nothingness. It's a concept, maybe. It's being created for you by the suggestion of a tree falling in the woods. But it doesn't really exist for you. If you're in the woods and you see a tree falling, did it really fall? Well, in your mind it did. It's real for you. But you don't really know if that's what actually happened or if it's a construct of your mind. Everything happens in the mind. So, I don't know if that was very helpful or just more confusing to some of you who are struggling with beginner meditation. But I guess I'll leave it at that. I will say also, don't try to sit and meditate for 20 minutes at a time. That is ideal. It takes often 20 minutes for the mind to settle. But 20 minutes is a long time. Start sitting with 5 minutes. Even set places, like every time, if you do drive to work, I mentioned driving, every time you hit a red light, take that moment with the red light to breathe in, to breathe out, observe the sensations of your breath, observe the sensations of the soles of your feet, observe the sensations of your hands on the steering wheel, notice if there's any unnecessary tension in your neck and shoulders. If there is, see if you can, if not only observe it, but also release some of that tension. Not necessarily all of it. Don't force your shoulders down. Instead, that just creates more tension. But if there's unnecessary tension, let it go. It'll come back. Don't worry. It's used to being there. It'll come back. And then when the light's green, you pay attention to driving again, please. But use those moments to start training the mind to come back to presence, come back to the body, come back to being and beingness. And over time, those beingness moments, they start out as being one moment, maybe even only once a day, that you're fully present. 2 seconds a day that you're fully present. But if you start training the mind to come into presence once every 10 minutes, once every hour, once every 2 hours, once maybe only when you wake up and when you go to bed, eventually those moments, if you can create more opportunities for those moments to happen, they come closer together and they become more like a continuum of presence. So that instead of present in the morning, present in the evening, present at a stoplight, present when you get into your car, and then never again for the rest of the day, it starts kind of building, and little moments of presence start stringing together to create one continuous experience of presence. Now, I haven't gotten there. I've had longer continuity bits of presence, but of course I'm not fully present all day at all. But it comes. That's the idea, is that it builds on itself. So when you're actually set to meditate, just meditate for 5 minutes, or even 2 minutes. If you can, 2 minutes. Sit, observe the sensations, observe the breath, and observe how often your mind tries to distract you. And it will. No problem. Return to the breath. Even more basic than that is counting, without trying to change the breath, counting the breath from 1 to 10, 10 to 1, 1 to 10, 10 to 1. And start with only one cycle. 1 to 10, 10 to 1. You'll be shocked at how difficult it is to stay present and count each breath, full breath. Inhale and exhale is 1. Another inhale and exhale is 2. And so on. It's amazing how difficult it is to count even just from 1 to 10 without the mind skipping out. No problem. You let it. You just go, up, fell off the rail, come back, try again. Start back at 1, try again. And it may actually take you several days before you can even get past 3. No problem. There's no rush. It's not, the goal isn't getting to 10. The goal isn't getting to 10 and then getting back down to 1. There actually really isn't a goal. If there is, the goal is training the mind to stay present. The more moments of presence you can create, over time they string together. So now I'm babbling. Well, I've been babbling for the last half hour, but I'm never really babbling now. So I'll leave you with that, and if there are questions or comments, anything unclear, I'll try to focus in, narrow in on what I was saying, and make it clearer for you another time. Have a great day, evening, weekend, week, wherever you are here now watching this.